I want to start this video with a question. Do you know how much money you've spent on a game? Not multiple games, but a single video game. 4 quid, $10, 50 euros, 2,631,000 Vietnamese dong. I know, I'm no saint. I spent my fair share of earnings on Fortnite V-Bucks over the years because a skin came out that I thought was either really funny or looked kinda cool.
Why did you goont my fries?
And you probably did the same thing when you saw that furry skin in the shop, didn't you? I'm sure many of you have noticed how much of the game industry has turned into hungry hippos for your wallets. From offering subscription services that you forget about, to increasing prices on everything, and then hiring psychologists to find the best way to get you to spend more money. I'll make sure to cover all of that and more in this video. And if you enjoy the content, maybe you can consider pressing the like and subscribe button. Just consider it, and maybe see what you think by the end of it. Alright, that's enough yapping.
Come back when you're a little, richer.
A long time ago, back in the early 2000s, when games were a measly $50 instead of, you know, 90, bordering on 100, was the release that set off a chain reaction that will be felt many years into the future of the games industry.
The horse is here.
Well, it wasn't exactly the game itself, but more the actions of the company. You see, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, you know, the one that got that shadow dropped remaster not too long ago. Well, Bethesda thought of the great idea to add horse armor DLC into the game. And there's a lot of lore on this horse armor, so to keep things short, the armor could be considered purely cosmetic. It does increase the health of the horse just a little bit, but it doesn't give any sort of specific protection stat. So unlucky, I guess. But what's really interesting about all this was the price of the DLC, a measly $2.50. And at the time, this caused a lot of uproar. But regardless of all the complaining, the DLC still performed really well, as the profits Bethesda gained from the minimal labor costs and people buying it for the meme just completely outweighed all the online criticism. It's a little ironic when you think about how this kind of thing still happens today, where the only difference is the price costing almost as much as games did back then. And to add salt onto the wound, Bethesda knew what they were doing with the Oblivion remaster, as they added a $10 DLC pack which included some horse armor. So of course, people are going to buy it for the meme. Again. These companies... Ugh. Maybe fell over then. These companies do these annoying and scummy things, but of course, their actions are motivated by only what the consumers are willing to empty their wallets for. A lot of it is the mentality behind the consumer and the normalization of these monetization methods. But there's a lot more to it, which I'll get into later. That's enough about the Oblivion remaster. The point I wanted to make was how this horse armor DLC was a stepping stone for companies. They saw how well it performed and thought, wow, that's a great idea. Minimal labor for more profit?
Filthy corpos.
Why should they put hours of work into an expansion rich with content, but no guarantee people will even pay for it, when they can just make no effort cosmetics for a small price and people will buy it because, why not? It's funny and cheap until it becomes a norm and they can raise the price. Obviously, that's not the sole reason the prices of these go up, because of inflation and the economy, blah 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 blah. But I do think they definitely are pushing it just a little bit. So Bethesda, though not being the first to invent DLCs or game expansions, as they go as far back as the Sega Genesis days with stuff like Sonic 3 and the Knuckles expansion cartridge, but they created the first cosmetic DLC, which led to the popularization of microtransactions in video games. The big scary word. Even though we still get actual content expansions for games today, the games industry is plagued with cosmetic packs and pay-to-win models that just make finding games without these features like finding a gem in a coal stack. Do you guys remember the Dark Matter skins in Black Ops 3? Or were you the type to just buy the bacon skin in Black Ops 2? I sound old saying this, but part of me does miss the days of grinding out some challenge to get some super rare cosmetics so you could flex off to your friends.
Yo guys, this is DSG, and I finally got my recons. Recon. Yep, it's all recon. This is not a fake video. See that?
Unlike now, where the only flex is how much cash you can splash on a game. Obviously, this applies to mainly online multiplayer games, where the worst of the monetization methods in the industry are used. As a platformer game enjoyer, thankfully, we get off fairly lucky. Unless if this statement ages poorly in the next 10-20 years. Now, I know the way I'm saying this stuff sounds pretty bad, but honestly, these early phases of money-sucking methods are nothing compared to what came next.
What's in the box?
Surprise! Have this golden cookie. The reward was free, but if you pay for another box, you might have a chance of getting this super rare exclusive green cookie, or maybe you'll just end up getting this boring normal cookie. But why not take the chance? It's not gambling, I swear. That is what's known as a loot box. Many of you probably know some early games that adopted this method of money siphoning, but the concept of these have been around for years. Even as early as the 1880s with collector's cards coming from cigarette packets, which Red Dead 2 would shamelessly steal 138 years later as collectibles in their game. This then evolved into stuff like Pokemon cards, which people are still collecting today. There was also the invention of gacha machines, which are just loot boxes that give you physical toys and a play on the word got you, like how one of my friends got with this Misato keyring from a gacha machine they probably spent at least 50 quid on. So of course the games industry found a way to implement these luck-based systems into their games. Some of the early adopters of randomized loot mechanics were MMORPGs. World of Warcraft, Diablo. A lot of people tend to look at MapleStory as the first game that would implement loot box systems using the in-game currency, which is a whole other topic I will delve into soon, I swear. But after looking into it, I found there was another game already out there called... Oh no, what happened? Why is my headset turned off? He didn't run out of battery. I found out there was another game called ZZ Online, or correct me if I'm wrong, Young 2, released in 2007. This game was so obscure, I had a hard time finding any gameplay of it. I wasn't even sure if it was real in the first place, but after searching for a bonus 5 minutes, I found this one video of a 10-second clip of a guy just standing there, speaking Chinese. There's also just this guy doing the gritty, which Fortnite would shamelessly steal as an emote years later. Then I took a look at this guy's channel and I just found an absolute goldmine. Just look at this exhilarating gameplay. Anyways, side tangents aside, ZT Online is seemingly one of the first games to implement loot box systems, using the Counter-Strike method of a lock and key system, in which you would earn loot boxes in-game and then pay for keys to unlock those boxes, where you can earn any random piece of loot inside. You see this in a lot of those Minecraft servers that get shown off in the taking down pay to win Minecraft server videos. I swear guys, it's not gambling. Now, why do loot boxes work? I'm sure many of you would think just don't buy it and the company loses, right? Well, there's mainly two reasons people tend to get obsessed with loot boxes. It can be simplified down to quality and quantity. Quality is the fact that people love to covet rare things. It makes them seem unique, special even. It sets them apart from the unwashed masses. Take Logan Paul for example, and his desire to be loved.
Mr. Krabs told me all about you.
He spent like $5.5 million just to get this PSA 10 Illustrator Pikachu, and then he sold it off, and allegedly he scammed his fans as soon as it was no longer seen as special. Allegedly. Society is built off the idea of making others envious of what you have, i.e. consumer culture. Did you know there was a phenomenon in 50s America where people would buy new fridges or household appliances if their neighbors or friends had a better version of what they already had? The whole concept was simplified into a phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, making sure you don't fall off behind on the social ladder because the neighbors appear off better than us. And that's why my wife left me, and now I'm with the man of my dreams. So it goes to show that throughout history, people will base their self-worth off of what they own. Capitalism and all that. So by having something that no one else can feasibly get, like for example, the limited time Rose Gold Mercy charity skin, or the super exclusive Bastion Lego skin, all which were very worth it, trust me. Stuff like that would send a person's self-worth higher than Shaggy after a successful case. Like Scoob, I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. Like these animals, I gotta confess, they're making me feel like a monster. Zoinks! It obviously sounds strange out of context, but think about how high and mighty people felt having the Black Knight skin in Fortnite back in 2019. As a little side note relating to the Black Knight skin and many others like it, people tend to enjoy the thrill of the hunt, gambling for these cosmetics. It shows dedication to the game having some kind of classic OG skin. In their head, it gives status, when in reality, no one cares. And I just want to add, that's not to say that if you like these skins, they're bad. They're designed by really talented artists. It's just the way that these skins are obtained are through really shady methods companies have been implementing for years now. These are all factors as to why people will spend money on loot boxes. And then that brings me to my second reason, quality. No. Quantity. Collecting has been a hobby that's been around since, well, forever. As I mentioned earlier, the cigarette card packets, or even the Pokemon cards. It's kind of implied in the song's name. People enjoy the thought of having everything, especially if it's a project they can complete over time. Again, this shows dedication, whether that's getting all the skin variants of your favorite character, collecting all the camos for a certain gun, or let's say something pretty simple, obtaining every item in survival Minecraft. It only takes a few hours. One quote that me and a friend came across when researching for this video, which is extremely comical in the context of gamers, says,
"One psychoanalytical explanation for collecting is that unloved children learn to seek comfort in accumulating belongings. Another is that collecting is motivated by existential anxieties. The collection, an extension of our identity, lives on even though we do not."
I like to think everyone has the little things they enjoy collecting. It can give a sense of fulfillment to people. Personally, I like collecting Steam achievements and growing my perfect games list. If you have a little collecting niche, maybe you should comment what it is below, eh? Anyway, to kind of summarize loot boxes, both quality and quantity isn't some new concept. They've existed way before gaming. People just like collecting things and having rare items. The games industry managed to capitalize on that facet of human nature by simply randomizing rewards for in-game purchases. And now that's been covered, it's time to talk about...
We've got to have money.
I said earlier, I'll talk about it, and now here we are. In-game currency. This is probably a shorter talking point than loot boxes, but definitely still one worth mentioning, considering how many games use this monetization method. Mobile games are a big culprit of this. Actually, thinking about it, mobile games are probably the worst offenders out of all these methods I'm going to list in this video. They tend to turn the annoyance factor up to and past 100. Now, in-game currency, at face value, doesn't seem too bad, right? It started out as just a currency you could earn and use in-game. Maybe to purchase some of the strongest potions from a potion seller.
You can't handle my potions. They're too strong for you.
Or to upgrade your strength stat for the bonk build. Maybe it's paying for the bounce bracelet so you can progress in the game after getting lost for the 12th time. Or maybe it's just a little sip of alcohol. This very concept began with games like the original Legend of Zelda. It probably wasn't the first, but it was one of the early games that helped pioneer the game mechanic. Collecting rupees and then using them in shops to buy one of 3 items, anything from hearts to shield upgrades. But here's the thing. You're not spending your real-life money on these items. So the reason I'm of course talking about this is because corporations swooped in and found out how to monetize this. Here's actually another bit of interesting info I found. Now, if anyone knows otherwise, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I found the earliest case of a game having in-game currency that you could buy was this 1999 Korean game called Quiz Quiz. The reason I'm not 100% sure is that I found this information on Wikipedia, and the only bits of gameplay I could find was from these Korean channels playing an archived version of the game where I don't understand anything that's being said. But there is a little shop icon up in there in the corner, so it must be correct. Again, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. As for finding the culprit that popularized in-game currency, if you're the average iShowSpeed viewer, you'll probably say something like Fortnite. But really, it was the classic COC. Or, Clash of Clans. Did any of you actually remember that game? They had a gem system where you could speed up buildings and training troops for gems, which would get very tedious late game when most buildings would take a week to finish upgrading. Again, mobile games. But going back to console, PC, and modern gaming stuff, yes, Fortnite created the V-Bucks system where you could buy X amount of V-Bucks for X amount of shillings. But again, like Clash of Clans, you could never specify the exact amount of V-Bucks that you want. You always have to buy a certain amount predetermined by the company for however much they want to upcharge you. I'll do a little experiment. I'll open up the Fortnite item store to see what items are up for grabs in this week's rotation, and when did Dumb Ways to Die get in Fortnite? Okay, well, I mean, it's nostalgia, so I have to get it, right? It's just one emote, and, ooh, That looks kind of funny. Alright, it's only 2 emotes. But, oh man, the repo bundle, it's right there, and it's leaving the store today. No, I can't. It's 1,800 V-Bucks. And if I wanted to get more so I can afford it, I need to get the 2,800 V-Buck pack instead of the 1,000 one, because it's cheaper in total, but it's also not, because it's making me buy more than I need. And you see the issue? I want to make it clear, I don't hate Fortnite. The new gen Roblox brainwashing games, yeah, they're all pretty annoying, but the game at its core is fun. There's a reason why it's popular after all. And there's some fairly interesting custom maps out there. The only thing I really don't like about Fortnite is that you can't choose how many V-Bucks you want. You always have to get the set bundle.
Sorry, future Karma here. So a friend told me you actually can get the exact amount of V-Bucks, but only if you select an item and click get V-Bucks. It just doesn't show up on the normal get V-Bucks page. Though not ideal, this is still a lot better compared to other games. Anyway, back to what I was saying.
And now, every game is doing this. Even single player ones. Did you know Dying Light 2 is doing the exact same thing for items? In a multiplayer game, it makes sense because you're showing off consumables to random people online. But a single player co-op game, are you going to show off to your friend that you spent more money on the game than them? Congrats, I guess. A lot of games give you an alternative method to obtain in-game currency, but usually it only gives you such tiny little scraps in so little time, you'd feel more inclined to buy the currency and just get on with it. Rants and experiments aside, I spoke about this a little longer than I thought I would. Oops. In-game currency in the modern era of gaming is pretty annoying, but I don't think any of these methods can hold a candle to ooh boy, I've been anticipating talking about this one. Everyone knows them, but if you don't, at their core, it's usually a limited time event where you can level up by playing the game and earn rewards for each tier. Normally there's a free version with some basic goodies and a paid version with the exclusive rewards, including premium currency that I just spoke about. The very concept of a battle pass started with Dota 2 with its compendium, but that was tied to tournaments. The game that popularized battle passes was, of course, Fortnite, and now we see it everywhere in almost every single game far and wide in the industry. And with battle passes comes cluttered menus. A key thing I mentioned when explaining what a battle pass is was the fact it's a limited time event, which means usually the rewards you get in the battle pass are only obtainable for that specific period. And that means I have to bring up the word I've been challenging myself not to say it for as long as possible, but this causes FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're busy because you have a, sorry to say the slur, but a job, bleh, and you were unable to get something you wanted, you'd feel more inclined to put more time into the game. Or if the game offers it, you could just buy tiers with your in-game currency. You won't have time to play anyway because you had to pick up 2 extra shifts this week because Logan decided to take 2 days off. Man, what a thankfully, we do have some saving graces in this category of money thievery. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but we have games, whether you like them or not, like Scare Ritual and Helldivers 2, showing how battle passes can be treated like a sort of DLC. These games allow you to switch to whichever battle pass you want. Some you'll have to pay for, but they're not limited time or anything, so you can just work your way through any battle pass you want at your own pace. Plus, I like this part, you can't pay your way to the end of these, so once you get the final reward, you actually feel like you achieved something. And it's a little more worth showing off, rather than just flaunting your money. Other larger games have tried some other methods to mitigate FOMO wherever possible, like Marvel Rivals. You can go back to the old battle passes and progress through them, so long as you paid for the battle pass when it was out. Meaning if you weren't playing the game at that time, or you were just a broke boy, you won't be able to get those items. Overwatch tried a shot preventing FOMO. I made a whole video talking about Overwatch and my opinions on that. It's all over the place, but Overwatch made a mythic shop where you could buy the final skins in the previous battle passes using mythic prisms. You can earn these in the current battle pass, or you can buy them. Blizzard doing what Blizzard does best after all. So even though you won't be missing out on the final rewards, you can still miss out on the rest of the rewards in the battle pass, if you liked any of them, I guess. And finally, the finals. Did any of you remember that game? They have, I think, the most preferable method out of these 3 bigger games, in which you could switch to the old legacy battle passes. The only caveat is you're not able to get the reward from the bonus page, which is like once you reach the final tier, there's some bonus rewards you can get. Between this and the other 2 options, this is definitely the more preferable one. I think that's probably all I can really say on battle passes. Just like everything in this video, they're very FOMO inducing, but at the same time, depending on how developers go about it, they could mitigate the FOMO by giving the players more control over what battle passes they want to buy. I'll leave talking about prices and all that for later on in the video, as I just want to cover everything else first so I can accumulate all these methods into one final conclusion. But I hope you're ready to spend $60 and not receiving anything for 6 months, because it's time to talk about...
Oh, let's go! That's class!
These are tricky. Pre-order bonuses have been around for years, and I tried but wasn't really able to find the first example of a pre-order bonus. If any of you know, please let me know, something like in the comments. The same kind of goes for what popularized this, as a company just kind of started doing it, but the concept of a pre-order bonus had been around for years. For example, books. You could pre-order a book, maybe the writer will sign the book for you, or throw in, I don't know, a keychain or a bookmark, I guess. It's basically some kind of incentive for you to give money before the product is available. You can also have digital pre-order bonuses where the game will go up for pre-purchase and you can get some little in-game goodies. Maybe it's an exclusive pay-to-win gun, or maybe it's just some gold gun skin that gets re-added in the re-release of the game for free. Or maybe you just really want those extra 25 lives. Back before games were all just bought digitally, you could buy games physically and pre-order them. Apparently, if you pre-ordered the 2002 version of the Thing game, you could get a free copy of the movie on DVD as well. This is 100% true because the only source I found of this was a reply on Reddit from 2 years ago on r/gaming. One of the more interesting bonuses is pre-order collector editions. These can always range from game to game, but they're usually for people who are really dedicated to a game or series. They'll usually contain something like an artwork book with game concept art, maybe some little items like keychains, and then the big thing being some statue or import item from the game 3D printed. You could be just like Dead Island Ripside and just have a woman's half-naked torso as the main attraction. I'm sure that will probably get plenty of sales for the game. Just ignore the critics online though, they're just hating. I've personally only ever paid for one collector's edition, and if I can give you any advice at this point in time, I really can't suggest buying from limited run games. I got the Sonic X Shadow Generations collector's edition for $320, which I ordered back on the 29th of August 2024. It was initially due for a couple months after the release of the game, somewhere around January of 2025. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then I got delayed to December of 2025. So I waited, and then I heard people were getting their collector's edition arrive. It was terrible quality for how much we paid and waited. And the cherry on top of all of this is that I get an email saying it's been delayed until March of 2026. I'm honestly just lost for words at this point. My first time buying from limited run games, and now it's just instantly ruined any chance I'll think about buying from them again.
So, quick update on that. It's March now, and Limited Run has made a blog post apologizing for the bad quality and are rebuilding it from scratch. Also, offering to anyone who's already received it to get the new version when it's done. The new delayed date is now also all the way in October to December of 2026, but they are also offering refunds, which I've decided to take. What I said about Limited Run still holds true to me. I can't recommend anything until they've shown they're capable, but this is a good start, being open, honest, and willing.
Anyways, pre-order bonuses can be iffy. You're paying full price for the game before it's even out. Essentially, you're putting trust into the company that's making the game. Thankfully, storefronts like Steam have measures that allow you to refund pre-order games, as they are a lot less strict on the time requirements for these, as it's very easy to get scammed out of the game you thought you were going to pay for. I don't think console gamers are as lucky with this though. Sorry guys. And that's probably just about everything about pre-order bonuses. That's my little rant, which I wanted to have. I'd say they're not as predatory as some of the monetization methods, but still can be very scammy if you're not careful who you're buying from. A lot of the time, the pre-order bonus isn't even really worth it unless you're some mega fan who values the franchise more than their own Discord kitten at that point. Speaking of the value of things, I think it's time to talk about the...
What did it cost?
10,000! My PC!
See what I did there, eh? Now, game prices is a weird one because it's not exactly some sneaky method game companies are doing to get you to spend more money. They're just getting you to spend more money. But to give them a bit of an out, this is mostly purely economical. One of the biggest reasons causing the raise in price is the cost to make larger games. They need to pay more staff before they lay them off. For instance, Metal Gear Solid 1 had a team of 20 people working on it, whereas Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain has a team of 250 people. Just under 25 people worked on the original GTA, and it's not confirmed, but there's an estimate of 6,000 people working on GTA 6. That's a lot of salaries to pay. You have to pay more people for even longer hours with all these deadlines and demanding stockholders. It's no wonder crunch culture has gotten so bad in the industry. Plus, it's no secret on how badly the hardworking people are paid, treated, and then let go because stockholders said AI can do it. Now, when a game's price is a lot higher than the average, it's probably a sign the studio knows the game is not going to sell well, either because it's unfinished, buggy, or just straight up not fun. That, or they'll announce they'll go free to play and then throw in all the other monetization methods I've talked about in this video. It also doesn't help that the average person's pay hasn't gone up enough to live properly in years. Hey, boss, if you're reacting to this, can I get a raise, pretty please? Thank you. But basically, everything has gotten so much more expensive to produce. So for games to turn a profit, they need to sell the games at an increased price. They could also have an actual planned out roadmap to help plan out future costs instead of just winging it. But, you know, whatever works, I guess. Just gonna make another yearly Call of Duty or FIFA game. The TLDW for this is that bigger budgets for games equal more expensive to make and therefore sell. But that doesn't equal a better game. Take, for example, the legendary Mind's Eye, a whole $70 developed and built by Rocket Boy, which was founded by an ex-GTA lead, Leslie Benzies? I think that's how you pronounce it. The game was truly amazing. Just look at those cinematic trailers that show no gameplay and only hype up what's to come. And oh, the game is buggy and horribly optimized with zero character, zero flair. Why pay for a week's worth of groceries when you can play this masterpiece instead? And on the flip side of the coin, for a super expensive $20 is the game Hollow Knight Silksong, the game that was so anticipated that it broke not only Steam, but other storefronts as well. And let me add, the game was worth way more than $20, at least in my opinion, but the value you get for what you pay is insane compared to Mindslop over there. And the game actually runs. The fact that's even a bare minimum these days is just a depressing statement, man. But hey, if you're a small game developer looking to get sales on your indie game, maybe you should try using the pricing strategy the developers of Peak use, which they explain in this article with this quote.
We had this joke of, like, how much is a game really? In a player's mind, what does it mean to spend $5? Well, that's $5. But $6? Well, that's still $5. $4 is also kind of $5. $3 is $2. And $2 is basically free. So we've got these tiers, you know, $12, that's $10, but $13 is $15. And we found that $8 is still $5. It doesn't become $10. $7.99? That's $5, right? So $8 going to $5 is the biggest differential we could find in pricing, and we found it very optimal.
And that's all there really is to say about rising prices. Companies like Nintendo are just upping the price of their games every year because, well, they can. Of course, there's also inflation, so when you see a game that's clearly overpriced, it's probably best just to hold off, unless if you're some mega fan or it's a business expense. That also counts. The games industry is truly in shambles. Anyway, let's talk about
a scientist. Thank God.
Your first thought is probably, this is a bit of a weird one to include in the video, but I promise it is interesting and at least somewhat relevant. At face value, it seems like a psychologist wouldn't really fit into a game dev team. You have your programmers, your designers, artists, music composers, etc. And you'd be right, because these psychologists aren't really on the game dev team, but probably in the boardroom with the directors, because they're the ones that help the directors understand the best way to manipulate you into spending more money. Now, there's been listings from places such as Valve. Yes, we all love Valve, but at the end of the day, they are a company, so PC's golden boy isn't really much of a saint either. They're looking to hire psychologists to design their storefront, obviously helping design it to be more addicting, so you can spend as much money on it as possible, throwing deals and cheap games in your face while keeping the UI as retention snatching as possible. Of course, Blizzard and Ubisoft have been caught looking for cognitive psychologists or those working in human-computer interactions with some insane payouts. A psychologist with a PhD could look to start somewhere between $70K to 80k, even going up to 150k. And you wonder where the budget for these games go. Not to the developers, of course. They don't need to be paid fairly. Let's just lay off another 100 developers. It wouldn't affect the game at all. Trust me. And if you look at this quote, it's really telling.
If you really enjoy academics, don't go into game design. Nobody cares about your smart idea. They care about whether something is going to help the game sell a lot. Lol.
There's loads of different types of jobs for psychologists to get in the games industry. Honestly, it's probably easier for these guys to get a job here than the actual game developers themselves. Here's a website that lists off all the different types of psychology jobs they can get, and you'll notice the one thing they don't openly list is a psychologist's involvement in monetization. It's kind of an open secret. You'll see it mentioned in articles or videos like this one talking about monetization, but actual game companies will usually avoid talking about it because of, well, just how bad it sounds. When you put it into context, it's literally exploiting human behavior patterns to squeeze out as much money as possible. Loot boxes feed on a gambling addiction. Cosmetics and microtransactions feed on the human need to show off, and neither of these are accidental. They're all well planned out from the start and optimized by people who know how the human psyche works. That, I think, is really jarring, how all these predatory practices I've talked about aren't really accidental. There is full intent, research, and genuine science behind it. So with all the odds stacked against you, what can you really do to defend yourself?
Why won't you die, nanomachine son?
Now, I've got to be realistic here. These money siphoning tricks are all over the industry. At least one of them will be in probably 1 of every 5 games you play, unless if the only games you play are from the 90s. You want to avoid paying $70 for a game that might be bad? Put that pirate hat on, you're self-diagnosed with autism, and you want the Steam achievements on the game? Wait for a sale or use a key site. Just to address the elephant in the room, in my key sites video, I said how you're free to use your money how you want. I just simply told you the moral implications behind using a key site.
I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, but at least I can rest happy now knowing that you know the moral implications behind grey market key sites, and you can choose if you want that knowledge to burden you or not.
Personally, I don't like using key sites for indie games, but AAA games? Go all in, I don't care. They've got enough money. You've got your Aniba, Humble Bundle, Loaded, which used to be CD keys, etc, etc. I even said in the video that there's that website, istthereanydeal.com. Again, I'm not sponsored by them. I wouldn't mind a sponsor from anyone though. I need to pay rent. As for loot boxes, skins, and battle passes, I will be 100 with you guys. If you don't want to waste your money, you're kind of gonna have to lock in and realize paying for these things is like shoveling money into a fire. If you like the skins, then I mean, good for you. And finally, everything is going to continue to get more expensive. It sucks, but the best thing you can do realistically against these overpriced games is not buy it. Or again, you could sail the 7 seas. So to conclude everything nicely, the games industry really wants your money.
I like money.
The prices of everything from battle passes to skins to the game itself is absolutely cooked. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy the game, if you enjoy the skins or the thrill of grinding through that battle pass, then good on you. Keep doing what makes you happy. I don't want this video to be seen as just me hating on the games industry, saying, woe is me, everything is less sad. I love games. You probably also love games. I don't want this industry to fall, but it genuinely feels like the people in charge really don't care about games anymore. I just simply want people to be aware of what the industry is doing. So maybe we can see some change on how things are done. I'm not against things like battle passes and in-game currency. I understand this is basically how the modern gaming landscape gets its workers paid, even if they get laid off all the time, especially in the free-to-play market. I just wish it were implemented in a healthier and less exploitative ways. Anyways, I think that's just about everything. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a longer video than usual and a lot for me to record, from the researching to scripting to editing. If you did enjoy, please consider liking, subscribing, becoming a member if you can afford it, joining the Discord, and following my socials. All of this helps me grow as a smaller channel. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed now. It's like 2 AM, so bye bye! Ow. Nope. Wait, where are you going? What?